Hi everyone, this is AJ. I have my buddy Varun here from SatsOverCents, and in this episode, we will talk about something that we've been wanting to talk about for a long time, but we really didn't have a chance, but now we do, and it's about Bitcoin versus real estate because Bitcoin is being looked at as a store of value. So is real estate. So we're just going to compare of how one is to the other. And before we start, a bit of introduction on that topic would be, as you all know, for decades, real estate has been one of the most popular ways to build and store wealth, right? It's been going on from our forefathers, generations, and so on. People get rich, they pump money into real estate, that real estate grows in value, they sell and they buy another piece, or they just release equity and they buy another piece of real estate. And that's how the world has been doing in accumulating as well as storing wealth. So it's tangible, it's stable, it's something generations have relied on. But today, we're living in a rapidly changing world and a new asset has emerged. Bitcoin. In this episode, we'll compare Bitcoin and real estate as an investment options. So we look at their advantages, challenges, and how they fit in today's economy. Okay. So let's start here, Varun. So the question would be, when we compare Bitcoin to real estate, what are your thoughts on it?
Everyone. Thanks, AJ, for having me. Yes, to answer your question, yeah, we're not talking about primary residence when it comes to real estate, and we know it's got one utility, which is to provide a roof over your head. But this is purely with respect to the investment strategy. And I just feel that thanks to Bitcoin, now we have something which is hassle-free, which is you don't have to deal with too many people. You don't have to look at what the market is. Like we discussed in the earlier episodes as well, that Bitcoin is very accessible. It's just 24 hours, 365 days a year. With a smartphone or with a laptop, you're good to go. You're not relying on how the market is doing. And it's not just local, right? Bitcoin gives you that global platform. So let's say if I am in a different country than yours, I cannot invest money in your country, and neither you can invest money in my country with respect to real estate. So, and there are a lot of paperwork, there's a lot of tedious kind of a task. Earlier, yes, before Bitcoin, people had no other option but to, store their wealth in real estate. But after Bitcoin, I think so, it becomes a hassle-free investment, and everybody should study Bitcoin. Everybody should look at Bitcoin from purely an investment perspective, because I feel that it has got a lot of real estate properties. So let's say, if the property of your real estate is going up, you're not going to be planning an extra vacation, or you're not going to be planning, what you can buy materialistic stuff, because the investment of your real estate has gone drastically up. People don't do that. It's a long-term vision. People keep it, and there are a lot of cost and maintenance and taxes involved. So I feel, in this episode, we'll probably argue or probably debate or have a discussion. I feel that Bitcoin is superior than real estate. And you being a real estate owner, I've been a real estate owner. So, and we are also, Bitcoiners. So I guess the best way to put it across where our audience can learn from our best practices and avoid the mistakes what we have made in our journey.
I think that was such a well-rounded answer. We can just stop the episode just here. I think, to be honest with you, that's how good it was. But I think let's get into the weeds a little bit and let's just try to understand every aspect or every attribute of why Bitcoin is superior to real estate. And I think the first thing that comes to mind, and I think you already said this, is how liquid Bitcoin is and how illiquid real estate can be. Like, to sell a house, or an apartment, whatever the, real estate property you have, or even a commercial property like an office or a shop, whatever that might be, it takes months, right? If that. And, the idea being you list it, you get an agent who will take some fees, you list it, you go through the process of, finding a buyer, you negotiate, you exchange, and you sign, and then you exchange, and so on. So I think the whole sales cycle is about anywhere between 3 to 6 months, depending on the country you are in and depending on the property, of course. If it's a hot property in prime location, I'm sure the sales cycle will be much, much, shorter. But generally speaking, accessibility, liquidity, comes to mind when we talk about Bitcoin versus real estate. Do you want to share anything on that comparison?
Yeah, what we've been talking, I guess, we've been very repetitive when it comes to why Bitcoin is superior. But it's again, it's very important for our listeners to understand where we are coming from. I personally feel that if you price everything in Bitcoin, everything is going to get cheaper. So be it a house, or be it your day-to-day life, or be it anything. You can correlate any, I would say, asset and you put that into Bitcoin value and everything is going to get cheaper. So, talking about the global accessibility, right? With, let's say you are sitting in one part of the world, anybody can buy Bitcoin. Bitcoin is for your friends, Bitcoin is also for your enemies, and Bitcoin is also for someone who needs it or someone who doesn't need it. But when it comes to real estate, I mean, forget the paperwork. I mean, the credit approvals, you also have to get in touch with the real estate agent. You also have to get the mortgage approval. What is the rate of interest the bank is offering you? What is the mortgage advisor suggesting you to do? And, you are dependent on so many factors. And in order to just make money, where you have some equity, the basic expectation is that you build up so much equity in your real estate that you can use that at a later future date and enjoy the perks of being a real estate holder. But once you understand the hiccups and the headaches that it gives you alongside with that, like you also have to maintain the property, or you also have to make sure that you look at the profile of the tenant who will be coming and staying at your house. And there are a lot of factors that you are dependent on. And not just, yes, it is, Bitcoin is highly accessible and it's liquid as compared to real estate, and you can panic sell it at 11 o'clock on a Saturday, what we been talking, but you can't do that with real estate. I guess a lot of wealth, I guess roughly about 300 or 330 trillion dollars, which are currently sitting in real estate, it is going to gradually move to Bitcoin. And that is why, I feel that Bitcoin is digital gold, but it is beyond that. That is why, Michael Saylor's base case scenario, he's saying Bitcoin is going to be $13 million a coin in by 2045, which is 21 years from now. And that is his base case. And because of these factors, people are anticipating that Bitcoin is going to be a superior asset.
Well, that's great. That's amazing. I hope we are alive to see those figures at that 13 million. And yeah, Michael Saylor, he's known in the industry for being a Bitcoin maxi. So yeah, I don't doubt his findings. At the same time, I know it looks like and sounds like he knows what he's doing, which is great. Good for him. In regards to coming back to the real estate topic, I think, yes, real estate takes time, paperwork, tenants, vetting the tenants and all that, as you mentioned. Yes, those teething issues and unnecessary or necessary evil, necessary issues that, anyone has to go through. But at the same time, there is stability in real estate, right? So when I say stability, I mean you buy a real estate property not to sell it. You're not trading with real estate. Well, there are many people who do that for a living as well. But generally speaking, you buy your own property. I know we're not talking about primary dwelling here. We're talking about, as an investment. So people buy as an investment as well. Why? Because the banks recognize as a safe asset, right? And when I say safe asset, I mean they would give you a mortgage only if they knew you had the capacity to put down the deposit. You can look after the mortgage every month. Worst case scenario, it's the rent yield will cover the mortgage in worst case scenario. And then the value of the property is also going up, right? So I think that's one, safety is one, I think, aspect of real estate, which is a very big selling point, right? But when you compare that to Bitcoin, we don't have that.
True. Yes, someone who's been old school, I would say that yes, will think that way. I'm not saying that I'm not old school and you're old school. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that we didn't have any other option. And Bitcoin as being an asset, it's there in front of us for last 15 years. And out of which I would say 10 years, majority of us we were very skeptical, what is Bitcoin? It's pump and dump scheme. And we look at exchanges, getting bankrupt, they're getting dissolved and they're vanishing from the market. And we blame Bitcoin. But that's not Bitcoin's fault. It's just, the middlemen, and that is how people have been taking advantage of, the common people. So I feel that the vibe, the energy is changing. People are choosing Bitcoin over real estate. Yes, the safety net is there because of the fact that it worked for centuries, not for decades, but centuries, right? But it's
Mhm.
no longer feasible for anybody because see, not everybody has got huge amount of deposit. They don't have huge amount of down payments. They don't have somebody who just wanna. It's like you cannot buy a fraction of a house. The
Yeah,
tokenization is not here yet. Yes, BlackRock is saying
true.
that everything is going to be tokenized, but it's not there yet. But when it comes to Bitcoin, you can buy as low as $1. You know what I
Right.
mean? So that's the benefit of investing in Bitcoin over real estate. As far as safety net is concerned, I actually feel that Bitcoin is more safer than real estate because I've given nearly 1,000 to 1,200 hours of my life to study this subject. So yes, I can say that Bitcoin is more safer than real estate because I've given that kind of hours. But someone who's listening to us may not be on the same page, and this is why this is our responsibility to educate them where you can move around with your Bitcoin and you can go anywhere in the world. You're not dependent on any third parties, be it your bank or be it your governments or be it any kind of middleman. So I feel that Bitcoin solves all of that, and gradually the tide is going to change, and it is changing, where a lot of people actually selling their investment properties and moving that money to Bitcoin because they know the advantages now. Everybody feels that US dollar or British pound is money. No, it's not money. It's just a currency. It's a medium of exchange where people are just exchanging for a certain value. And we people, we give value to any product where people don't realize it. If we stop giving, let's say we are not okay to give 1,500 for an iPhone, Apple will have to reduce the price of the iPhone.
Yeah, those are the market dynamics. Yeah.
And similar, it's the same thing is going to happen with real estate. Now,
Mm.
because people didn't have the option of storing their wealth other than real estate, they couldn't come up with a better option. But thanks to Satoshi Nakamoto, now we have Bitcoin. So what is going to happen is now housing is just got one utility, which is to provide a roof over your head. This was the case today. This was the case 20 years ago, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 500 years ago. And eventually it is just going to reset because there are a lot of millennials like us or Gen Zs, who are not able to buy their primary residence because it's not affordable. Not everybody can buy it.
Mm.
It's anything to buy in first world countries. You need anything in seven figures, and not everybody can afford it, right? So I guess that is going to change, and real estate pricing is just going to reset. That will take, I would say, 3, 5, 10 years, but eventually it is going.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, look, I hear you and your points regarding safety. I think the other angle of safety that I was referring to is a bank is ready to give me a loan based on the net asset value of a property, right? But a bank is not going to be ready to give me a loan to buy a Bitcoin.
Not today, because this is a debt-based economy. They want people to take debt. Imagine if none of us is taking debt. The economy is going to collapse. This is why everything is so easily available. Okay, people can't afford an iPhone, buy it on EMI, which is equal monthly installment. It is so easily available. It's like people are not taking debt for education, people are not taking debt for real estate, people are not taking debt for their vehicle loans or their weddings, or it could be anything and everything. Imagine if nobody is taking debt, the economy is going to collapse. Uh, you know, this is why they say that everybody should own a house. And this is why we come from a culture that, people actually judge us based on whether you own your own house or you living in a rental property. And because we didn't have anything better. And nowadays,
Mm.
if I have to ask you, AJ, what is true richness? It's no longer $1 million house or a fancy $100,000, $200,000 car. It's basically financial freedom and location independence. That's true richness. And real estate, unfortunately, is not solving that. Is rather is rather putting pressure on you because you cannot predict what your rate of interest is going to be. You have to work 10 times more and the only time you come back home is to sleep. And majority of the time you're just yes, I understand that it provides stability when it comes to primary residence, and I'm not denying the fact, but as an investment, real estate is no longer solving that purpose.
So you think it's more of an emotional and rather than money appraisal investment?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And because we live in a society where people are judged based on the materialistic things they own. Like,
Yeah, yeah,
I may own a fancy car, I may have the best of the brands, and I may look rich, but it's not necessary that I'm rich.
yeah. That's true. Let's move on to the next topic or next question or comment rather. I recently met somebody and that person mentioned to me, hey, AJ, I know I was talking along the same lines of why Bitcoin is superior to real estate. And he asked me that question. His question was, if I buy a property today, where let's say I put down a 10% deposit, which means I'm taking 90% loan to value, right? And I keep paying mortgage, rental, whatever that might be into it. And let's say I've got 50% loan to value remaining and I've got equity of 50%. Now, traditionally, everything else being equal, I can withdraw that 50% equity or up to 50%. I can withdraw that from my existing property. I can take that equity uh, as a loan and I can buy another property, and that way I can build a portfolio of properties. So I can amplify my wealth from just starting to invest in one house or one property and then amplifying it to reach whatever hunger that I might have to have like 10 houses, 20 houses, whatever that might be. But you can't do that with Bitcoin. You can't release unless you sell your Bitcoin.
That's true. But because of this exercise, now just because let's say you are a wealthy person who's got 10 houses in your portfolio, and I am someone who just, struggling to buy my own first primary residence. But you don't need 10 houses to live in. You just have 10 houses because you don't have any other best way to store your wealth. I need a house because I have a big family. I have a dog. I have kids, and I have the complete family where I have to, I need a big house, right? But because of this, because the system is able to, allow you to manipulate, lack of a better term, there are a lot of people like me, or there are a lot of people like, who's struggling to buy their first ever home because it is reached a point where now not everybody can afford it. And because of this current monetary system, we have reached where the prices are keep going to go up because the money printing, that's the root cause of all the problems today. You call it inflation, shrinkflation, stagflation, devaluation. You name any problem, the root cause is only one, which is money printing. And because of which houses have become unaffordable. And this is why people are able to manipulate and have, if they have enough equity, they tend to take another 10-20% out of that and put that into another condo or another house and pay that 10-20% down payment and keep adding on to that. For them, it's investment. But for a lot of us, it's a primary residence which you're not able to afford. This is what's the problem is with fractional reserve banking, which is where our current monetary system is completely built on.
Right. So yes, that issue, I think all the governments in most of the major cities in the world have identified that, and they are curbing down on landlords who have a lot of properties by increasing the stamp duty from anything after your primary dwelling. If you invest in a property, then your stamp duty is slightly higher or much higher depending on the price of the house or the property, as well as on your tax. You can no longer show your interest payment, or sorry, you can no longer show your mortgage payment as an expense. In fact, the only thing you can consider is the interest part of that payment. But there are nuances to it. I'm not a qualified accountant, so I can't speak much on that topic. But that's all I know on a surface level. But I think my point, Varun, mainly was I can own an asset, right? Let's say Michael Saylor today has how many ever thousands of Bitcoin in his portfolio for the company. That's an asset sitting on his balance sheet or in his portfolio, but it's dead in the sense he can't he can't use that asset to produce more asset, which you can do with real estate. That's my point.
See, right now there are financial tools which is being built in and around the Bitcoin ecosystem. So if you know what is MicroStrategy doing, it is exactly what they're doing because they've understood the system so well. So people are buying his company shares. His company shares value keeps going up, and because the value is going up, because he's got 430,000 Bitcoin on the balance sheet, and the price of Bitcoin is going up, so his share value is also going up. So he's able to take more debt on it and keep buying more Bitcoin, and he keeps doing that, and he's getting debt for nearly 0% interest rate. So he is also now trying to make the most of it in the current financial system. But to answer your question, because this asset is just 15 years old, AJ, you got
Hmm.
to understand that point that, and this is the fastest, I would say this is faster than the internet as well. There is no new asset class which is, being adopted where the president of the US is talking about it, where the entire world is talking about, mining with government resources. No other asset has reached that kind of level in just 15 years, right? So I would say give another couple of years and you will see a lot of financial tools which is being built in and around this Bitcoin ecosystem where people will be able to you don't have to sell your Bitcoin. You can just take debt on your Bitcoin, and there will be applications, or there will be tools available in near future, and I know there are people working on it. And yeah, right now, yes, because we are this asset is barely new, and it's just 15 years, but sooner or later it's going to get there.
Yeah, I think that would be the time when I think people would definitely change their attitude towards Bitcoin as an investment vehicle. Simply because I think once DeFi has that capability, decentralized finance, has that capability of putting your Bitcoin in some sort of an escrow account as a mortgage for you to get loan over it, irrespective of the current market value of Bitcoin, but they could do or some sort of a index value. So for example, if the Bitcoin today is, let's say 100,000, but they'll say, okay, fine, the last 12 months average price was, let's say 60,000, for example. I'm just making this up. And then instead of considering it at 100,000, they would consider the asset value or Bitcoin value at 60,000 and would only give you, let's say 75% loan to value of that 60,000. So that way they are keeping their asset as collateral secured. Even if Bitcoin's price dips in value, the mortgage they have, the collateral they have, they still have enough for them to repay or reclaim the loan that they might give you based on your Bitcoin. So I think that's the space that I think everybody's waiting for. Again, I would be very. I'm actually waiting for that, as well as the fact that there will be some sort of a decentralized credibility scoring system that might come up. I'm sure there will have to be, because otherwise, how will you know what the credibility of this wallet or this person is for them to get a loan over their own Bitcoin, and how long they've had it for, and how legit they are basically, and things like that. So I think that's the kind of level that we would want to be at or reach, where you're actually using your Bitcoin asset to multiply your assets and buying more assets. There could even be a restriction to say you can only buy Bitcoin with your loan that you get from your Bitcoin, if you know what I mean. Like there could
I
be some
mean,
sort of a system.
and also, just to add here that, it depends on what kind of debt you're taking and what is the kind of Bitcoin holdings you're putting as a collateral. And if you're closer to the debt amount you're taking and, stuff like that, also the rate of interest is going to fluctuate. The more the collateral, the lesser the rate of interest you will have to pay on the debt you take. So yeah, all of that is going to be there. And like I said, it's going to take, and there are people building actually on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just to add to this topic, I just want to show you a video where Eric Trump, son of Donald Trump, who recently spoke about this in Bitcoin conference, MENA in Abu Dhabi on December 9th and 10th. So just give me a second. I would like to share my screen and
Yeah,
I want to
sure.
show you this video.
Yeah.
Yeah, here it is. One second. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
So you build golf courses, you build commercial buildings, you operate these buildings every day. Kind of why the love? Because I think they can hear the real sincerity in our voices, right? Where these aren't sound bites. And if you really look at real estate, it's tangible. You can feel it. It has energy. And when you look at Bitcoin, it's actually very much the same, but it has so many of the counterbalances that might otherwise be considered flaws of real estate. And listen, we're a real estate family. It's what we love. It's what we know. We know it better than anybody. But if you want to talk about a hedge against real estate, I mean, think about something that's immediately liquid.
Yep.
Right. And that's what crypto, so something that can be transported very easily, right? It's digital currency. It doesn't have fees. There's no brokers. There's no bankers. There's no lawyers. There's no title companies. There's no middlemen. There's no risk of fire. There's no risk of floods or tornadoes or hurricanes, right? I mean, there's a lot of downside protections that crypto can have that real estate, being a tangible hard asset, it doesn't have. And so I look at the two in concert. I look at this being an unbelievable hedge to this. I also look at state, and that's a beautiful thing. And you take people in developing countries and developing nations, people who otherwise don't have a chance, and crypto actually gives them a chance to invest, a chance to succeed, a chance to maybe get lucky and transform their lives. And that's a beautiful thing. And I think it's going to be, listen, it's the future. Make no mistake, it's the future. And again, I really believe that the people who embrace it earlier are going to succeed. The people who don't.
That was an amazing video, by the way. Yeah, even I had not seen that before. So thanks for sharing, Varun. So yeah, I think this video is getting a bit longer than I expected. So last point from my side I wanted to talk about is, savings and pension. So somebody mentioned, hey, AJ, I bought this second house of mine as my future savings or as my pension. And Bitcoin being so volatile, it's not, regulated in most countries. Some people don't even know if it's a currency or it's a asset or a security. And why should I move my real estate where I know in 20 years' time when I retire, I will have my house most certainly paid off, and then I can just sell it and live on my savings till I die. So, and I was like, look, that's a good strategy, mate. All the best. If that works out for you, great. It has been working out for a lot of people. The way he described it. But what if you don't have to risk, or you don't have to know whether you'll have a house paid off, and you don't have to go ahead and sell that asset, and you don't know what the interest rate you will get from that money that you will get from your selling your asset, and if that will be enough for your living. What if you outlive your savings and things like that? So I think what I'm trying to say is that it was just a difference in opinion and a different thought. Obviously, I challenged in his thought, which he kind of didn't. He got a bit uncomfortable, but I think it's because it's still very early, as you said, Varun, on Bitcoin. People don't understand how it compares to real estate. And now that we spoke about this, we brought up a lot of good points, I hope. So for our listeners who had not thought about these points, or who had been thinking about these points, would have got a better understanding of which asset is superior, or which is a better investment. Again, this is not investment advice, so please do your own research. I think I'm ready to wrap here, Varun, but I'm going to pass on the mic to you if you have any final thoughts.
Thank you, AJ. I guess you sum it up really well. Yes, this is purely a new asset class. And before people judge, and you may have noticed that people who only judge that Bitcoin is a scam or Bitcoin is not the right asset, the ones who've not given those kind of hours, right? But I have never met anybody who's put in the hours, who understood what Bitcoin is all about. Because see, we are all non-technical guys. We can't read the code. That's why we need to spend double amount of time in order to understand what Bitcoin really is. But it clicks, but once you understand, I guess everybody eventually, they say that everybody buys Bitcoin at the price they deserve. So I would say that my last thought would be just this, that spend some time, study it, and be humble and keep stacking those sats.
Nicely said. All right. Thanks, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this session. Please like, subscribe, and share as much as you can. And I'll see you in the next one.